behavior of, okay, I need to finish what I'm eating because in the back of your mind, I don't know when I'm going to, get a nice meal like this. Or in a different form, you go out to a function where you're not even paying for the food, and you're like, okay, I never eat like this, so I'm going to now vreet lekker hierso. Or I'm going away and there is a breakfast included, I'm paying for this trip, I need to get my money's worth. So then there's no eating from a place of hunger, there's other subconscious limiting beliefs driving that behavior. So again, it always is going to come back to being self-aware. And it's not about wasting food, it's just about becoming in tune with your body, enjoying your food, but know, okay, you know what, I can take this away for lunch the next day, that actually makes my life easier, then I don't have to have lunch. So those are little things that you need to always be aware of, because the surgery and any tool is just to make life easier, to make the changes you still need to make, so that your weight loss journey is sustainable. The key is sustainability, not how much you lose, not how fast you lose. And on that note, like Elmarie mentioned, you're still in the bad habits, or you were in the bad habits, you're finding it hard to break out of those bad habits. Habits, the more you do something, because the brain is like a muscle. When you train it, it gets stronger, no matter what you train. So when you repeat a habit that's maybe bad for you, you can become on autopilot. Like when you're driving to work, have you ever driven and then like all of a sudden you're at work, you're like, oh my gosh, I actually can't even remember how I got here. Or it's weekend and you're all of a sudden on the same road that you would have taken to work, and you turn because you're not going to work, but you're on the same road. It's like you're on an autopilot road. So that's the same with habits. The more you do something, the stronger it gets. Which means the more you do something different, the stronger that then gets. So the key is to be consistent in the changes that you make. And what you value at the time is what you're going to prioritize. So when you ever feel like, I don't understand why I can't just break these habits, you have to ask yourself, what in your life at this present moment do you value more than your health?
Sure.
Because whatever you value, you will prioritize. So I can say, yes, no, I value my health. So I'm going to make time for exercise, and I'm going to prep my lunch the night before, have a weekly menu, get on top of things. However, if that doesn't take effect, and I now overindulge with, my son's activities, or I do everything but what I was going to do, it means I don't value my health as much as I thought. I will value maybe, your children over your health, or a loved one over your health, or your work over your health. A lot of people's day has become 8 to, we don't know when we stop because we're working from home, so there's no 8 to 5, which means that you value your work over yourself. And then you have to ask yourself, what is that work filling in me that I'm not giving to myself? Because everything boils down to an emotional need. Like even when we eat for comfort, there's a discomfort. So there's a need we're trying to fill with food. The same with work. You feel maybe important, you feel like you're contributing, you feel whatever, it's fulfilling something, a value in you that you're not filling within yourself. So who values their health here?
Sorry, I'm trying to hold the phone steady.
So are your actions matching your...
No.
which means that you need to look at what is getting in the way of that. It's what you want. It's great. It's something to strive towards. But what's getting in the way? Anybody want to share?
Me.
You getting in the way.
Yeah.
Okay. What about you is getting in the way?
Because I'm making everything else a priority and not me.
Okay.
My work. And when I don't have the crazy hours, then I make up to the family because I've been neglecting them. And then when that's done, you have to tend to the house because I've been neglecting that. So I'm pretty low down on the list.
So how can you change that?
I know I can, and I know I must.
I don't doubt that you can't. I mean, everything boils down to a choice.
The reality is, even though I know I can and I know I must, these other factors that I have no control over, that doesn't make it impossible, but really makes it difficult and hard. And I just don't have the energy to try and deal with the hardship. I don't know if that makes sense. We spoke about it on the way home. It's not an excuse. I know we all have crazy lives. We all have stress and stuff. But I'm going through a really, really rough time the last 3 weeks, and the next 3 to 5 weeks are going to be even crazier. I get home 8 o'clock at night, if I'm lucky, 8:30. I hope my family have prepared food. 9 out of 10 times they haven't. So I walk in the door, my computer's already screaming, email, and I must start supper. I'm exhausted. I don't have time to go and think about what am I planning to prep for tomorrow for me. All I want to do is have a cup of coffee or a glass of wine and get into bed. Do you understand? And there's nothing I can do about it. It is my life at the moment. So how do I break that? How do I change it? Because I have no control.
So the first thing you need to do is change your thought on that. Because your statements, I have no control, are going to define your reality completely. Completely. It's like diets. If someone comes to me and they've seen a million dietitians and they sit there, I say to them, what makes you think what we're going to do is going to work? Because everything you've tried has worked, but you regain the weight, so that's normally the pattern, okay? But what makes me believe that you're not going to set yourself up for the same result as you have done in the past? Because if you already believe something's not going to work, it will not work. If you believe there's things out of your control, then you will never feel in control. There are things out of your control, for sure, but you are always in control of yourself and your choices.
True.
There's not nothing I'm in control of. You are only in control of yourself. So yes, if work at this point is busy, that is the reality. How do we work with it? Okay, if I get up at, I'm going to start work at 8, so I'm getting up at 7, then I need to start getting up at 6 so that I can make sure supper's already done. The morning, before the evening, or I take the weekend, or I call a friend that I know has more time than I do. I go, listen here, these are my meals that I'd like, maybe just 3 meals in the week for a family of 5. Here's the money, please can you make it for me? I do that. I'm like, time is money. Here we go, have some of my time and create the meal, and then I can just warm it up.
That's very true, and I think you said it earlier, is that which you focus on becomes a priority.
Because you also have to look at what becomes the story of my life.
Yeah, and I don't want chaos, which it is at the moment.
But like, how long has it been going on for?
3 weeks.
Because I've known you.
No,
I'm the assistant.
yeah, I know, but we're launching a new company on the 1st of May, so I'm like, yeah, right now.
No, for sure.
Crazy.
But chaos is going to take different forms.
Yeah.
Because it's familiar.
True.
It's so familiar.
True.
I can write the book on being chased. In fact, when things are too quiet, then I procrastinate so that I'm just in time and I'm rushing because it's familiar.
True.
So why? And that's not a good thing.
No.
You know, that has a ripple effect on everything else, like you've just said. So you have to get to the root of the problem, nip that in the bud, so that you don't have that ripple effect, that you change your statements. I've got this. I mean, I had a person who drove all the way to Durban for an appointment. I was like, was there no flights or, I don't understand. She was so busy that she didn't even make a flight time. She was that busy. I think she only sleeps 3-4 hours, but she was so committed to the journey that come hell or high water, she was going to make a plan. There was another lady who didn't have a job, lived in Knysna, almost like a little bit of a hippie in like a teepee type of setting, coming for the bariatric surgery. She didn't have any accommodation here. She slept in the hallway at Tygerberg Hospital for her appointments, not even for the surgery. I promise you, and I'm sure you've met people like this, like if you will make a plan if it's a priority. There's just like no other option, but it will work. And that's the mindset that you need to have consistently. And the only thing consistent in life is you. You cannot rely on the work to be consistent. You cannot rely on your family and their moods to be consistent. You cannot rely on any other thing to be consistent to hold you. You have to be consistent with yourself, and that takes a certain amount of commitment to yourself. Like if your son, like your work is crazy, but your son needed you, somehow you would make a plan, wouldn't you? All of a sudden, you would make a plan. But it's crazy. So why can't you do that for you?
Why indeed?
Why indeed? Those are the questions that you have to ask yourself. I was listening. Does anybody want to add anything to what I mentioned or share anything?
I don't want to hog the floor, but I have a question. You know, we always speak about overindulging and overeating and stretching the pouch and whatever. Okay, so now you've gained the weight. Like in my case, I'm speaking for myself. I've gained the weight. I realize there's a problem. I am like trying to get back into where I was doing things the right way. But what I have noticed is I'm definitely eating. I'm much more conscious about my portion sizes, and some days I'm surprised at how little I'm eating, but yet the weight is staying. And I'm thinking I got bigger because I was eating the breads and the pastas and the rices and the things, which I've now tried to cut out, and I'm eating less. Why is the weight not coming off?
So firstly, do you weigh yourself every day?
I've stopped doing that. I actually broke my skull.
Wonderful, wonderful, good start. Out of anger.
Pretty much, yes. Not going to lie. It was a moment.
Then the other thing is how long have you been doing that for, the eating less and cutting back on the carbs?
Since our last meeting, so it's a month.
So what you need to do is, have you tried to keep a food diary?
Yeah, I keep one on my MyFitnessPal.
Okay. You need to look at your trends, because obviously, like I said, energy that you take in, whatever you don't use, it's either going to store as weight, but know this from a physiological point of view. So your body uses glucose as its number one source of fuel. Alright? Remember I said the food is broken down into three things and only three things: glucose, amino acids, fatty acids. So anything that has carbohydrates or starch or sugar gets broken down into glucose or fructose or a form of sugar, and the body uses that as its number one source of energy. Only once it's used that does it then switch to your fat stores. So for your body, you need to look at, right, I've cut back on bread, I've cut back on pasta, but what other starches am I maybe consuming that's not allowing my body to switch into my fat store mode? So carbs are even in the good stuff like your sweet potato, your pumpkin, your butternut, your beans, your lentils, your legumes, your alcohol. So you have to look at your fruit, your cereals, anything with a grain. You can have the best of sourdough breads, it's still going to break down into glucose. So you've got to look at how much, how often, because that will give you an indication. Remember, what you do consistently is going to yield a result. So if the week is brilliant, and on the weekend it's a little bit touch and go, it's going to sabotage your efforts for the week. Also, alcohol has an effect on weight loss, not from only a calorie point of view, but because it filters through the liver, and your liver is an organ that is responsible for protein, carbohydrate, and fat metabolism. So when alcohol goes through the liver, it impairs the metabolism of your foods. Okay, so it has a weight loss blocking effect, to put it bluntly. And so when you eat, especially post-surgery, remember we always preach that protein needs to be your first thing that you eat. Who can say that they still do that rule, people that have had the surgery? I know a lot of people that have had the surgery that first eat the carbohydrates and then the protein. So one of the questions you sent me on WhatsApp is, does quantity of food have a physiological effect?
That was one of the, yeah.
Yes, and especially in the form of carbohydrates. So when carbohydrates are broken down into sugars, there is a release of dopamine, there is a signaling that happens, it works with the same reward center in the brain as a drug, so there is a sensation of comfort from a physiological point of view. And just from the stomach, so not the stomach stretching, but your main digestion actually happens in your small intestine. And your intestine is where the majority of your serotonin is produced. So that's where the gut-brain relationship takes place. But often with us, there's a gut-brain disconnect. So I don't know if you've ever eaten and you never felt full, like you're eating but there's no fullness, you keep eating. Have you ever experienced that?
Not since the surgery.
Not since the surgery. Okay. Now the danger zone is if you've had the surgery and you experience that, because then it's not your stomach that you're feeding. Then that is an emotion that you're feeding, an anxiety-driven emotion.
But this whole, we spoke about it at our last meeting, this whole pouch stretching thing, there seems to be two very different camps on this, because I'm not going to mention which other place that does the surgery, but they like, oh, it's so difficult to stretch your pouch. It's like really nearly impossible to stretch your pouch or your sleeve. Whereas you stated quite categorically it's very possible.
Absolutely, I've seen it with my own eyes.
So now the thing is, like, I think that is the biggest fear for all of us that have had the surgery, is because, I mean, I can eat
more now.
No, but it also depends, because like mince, I can eat like a half a cup of mince, like quantity-wise, a half a cup of mince, but I can't eat a 200-gram piece of steak. So now, when I have a half a cup of mince, I'm like, oh my God, I've stretched my pouch because I'm eating so much. But then I have like a chicken breast or a piece of steak, and I can hardly get it in. So I'm like, also, I don't know what's going on. You know, how do I've tried to do the test, and I don't think I've stretched it, but then other days I feel I have. So how does one know without having the pipes down you?
The pipes down you is really the only physical evidence, but from that I've physically seen, person who's had the surgery and it looks like they haven't.
Oh my God.
So the stomach looks normal.
No.
Yes. So
And it
yes.
never ever goes back to.
So that's the thing. So people always ask, can I shrink my stomach again? It's a yes and a no answer. Physically, no. Because it's like a balloon. If you've got a balloon, you've blown it up, and keep blowing it up, and you keep blowing it up, eventually the elasticity, it starts to stretch.
Yeah.
And it's the same with your stomach. The yes part of that answer is you can feel full with less. It depends on your hormones, your combination of your food. So when your body goes into ketosis, and you can put your body into ketosis by either eating less than a certain amount of calories, it's typically less than 950 calories, or it's a very, very low carbohydrate type of eating, then your ghrelin hormones, which is your hunger hormones, your leptin hormone, which is your fullness hormone, they are altered. And you do feel full with less, and you do not have sugar cravings, and you do not have a craving for more. Sugar in the form of carbohydrates tastes like more because it does drive hunger. So if I eat pasta, I can eat quite a lot of it, even if I'm full. And then I start to crave other forms of carbohydrate. There is a hormonal reaction that happens with carbohydrates. That's why when you become insulin resistant, when you put weight on here, insulin resistance means carbohydrate resistance. That's another word for insulin resistance. The more insulin resistant you are, the more you crave carbohydrates.